All right, let's get this going. Welcome again from my side. My name's Philipp. I'm the head of portfolio at Innovate for Nature, and I'm very glad to see all of you here today and joining us for this webinar on how to apply for the Innovate for Nature Award. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the Innovate for Nature Award is, what the prize is, what the procedure is around all that, how do we do the evaluation, and for those who don't know, also what we did in the last year. I mentioned it already, but to those who joined a little bit later, we have disabled the chat function and the microphone and so on. So please use the Q&A function. If you have any question, there should be the possibility for all of you to ask questions and also upvote or downvote or maybe even reply to some of them. And I hope to catch these questions at the right moment and then reply right away. Few people still coming in, so I'll let them in. Give me a second here. All right. For those who just joined, feel free to use the Q&A to ask any questions along the way, and I'll try to answer on the spot when I see it. So I'm not sure to what extent all of you are familiar with Innovate for Nature. We are a foundation out of Switzerland, and we have the purpose to accelerate 100 nature-positive solutions until 2030, with the idea to create or to help transform the economy to something that is more planet compatible. And we do that with three different ways. One is the portfolio building, which is what we do with organizations like the ones you are likely in, what we call solutions to all the problems out there, accelerating those, then bringing all kind of people together. That can be the corporates who need to transform, the innovators, the solutions like you, investors, and academia, and of course also provide thought leadership in the sense of where do we need to take systemic action to make this transformation happen. In the solutions that we work with, we classify them into 4 different focus areas, and I assume together they more or less cover everything that could be considered nature positive. So we're looking at it from the perspective of drivers of biodiversity loss. But if you see on the left, it is sustainable management of ecosystems that has everything to do with what we classically call conservation, regeneration, measurement, also financing, verification, all these topics. Then the second one, nature as infrastructure and planet compatible cities. That is more the built environment, everything in urban spaces, but also where ecosystems have a very active infrastructure role, let's say in wastewater cleaning or even drinking water cleaning, avalanche protection, things like that, stormwater protection. The built environment. Then regenerative food systems includes everything from farm to fork. So the regenerative farming systems, but also the processing and to some extent what's on the plate in the end. And circular nature positive solutions is kind of the bucket for anything that hasn't found the bucket in the other 3, which is primarily materials, like packaging solutions, textiles, but also other ways to minimize waste and regenerate natural systems like behavior change tools. The Innovate for Nature Award, the idea is to identifying and accelerating the high quality nature positive solutions. So we have this extensive assessment for nature positive impact to identify which are the solutions that have the potential through their economic activity, have a beneficial role for nature by either halting drivers of biodiversity loss or increasing the state of nature in the long run. And so the purpose is of the Innovate for Nature Award to recognize these solutions. So the recognition comes with prize money, but also with a lot of visibility, with access to a curated ecosystem of, let's call it allies, all kind of partners, be it in corporates, be it in finance, be it in family offices that can help you along the way to become a scalable solution. So the Innovate for Nature Award has financial and non-financial benefits. We have in the 4 categories that I mentioned before, each a prize of 25,000 Swiss francs, and on top of it, a grant by the Wyss Academy for Nature over 15,000, which can be on top of the 25,000, but has a bit more specific requirements, which we will get into later. Then, of course, as I said, access to the Innovate for Nature ecosystem, tailored training and mentorship opportunities where we try to find out with you where your needs are, where you want to go next, where you need to go next, and whether we have someone in our ecosystem that can support you on that journey. And then the visibility through all kind of Innovate for Nature channels. That is a lot on, let's say, social media, but also exclusive events with high-profile stakeholders. As mentioned before, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the Q&A. I hope you all see the Q&A function. Feel free to drop your questions there. So Boyan, I see you have your hand up. Let me quickly unmute you because I don't see you otherwise. Boyan, I think you should be able to speak now. Well, I don't hear you, so it looks like well, I see a heart. Okay. I see you have your hand up, but maybe you write your question into the Q&A, or is that not visible? Let me quickly check. All right. So my colleague just confirmed that you should be able to see that. I see your hands, but I cannot unmute you. So if you have anything to say, kindly do that into the chat, and then maybe at the end I can go back to that. Let me go back to the presentation. Coming to the requirements for the application. So we try to have as few requirements as possible, but it still makes sense to share a little bit with you what gives you higher chances of success, whereas, or kind of, let's say, these are minimum requirements that you would need to fulfill to join or to have a chance in winning the award. Otherwise, we likely wouldn't even do the assessment. So first of all, you need to be aware of some kind of a business model, which means you are not fully relying on donations. So if you have some part donations or grants that are funding you, that's no problem. But in the long run, this should not be your only source of income. You need to have some kind of a business model. The solution also needs to be scalable or replicable. If it's only possible in one particular location, then this will likely not be something we're looking at. But if it is reproducible, replicable, or scalable, That is great. From maturity, we're looking into anything around pre-seed or seed, so really early stage organizations before they are scalable, before they are interesting to a commercial entity who can scale you. So some kind of a business model needs to be there, some kind of a business plan, a marketable pilot, an MVP, any of these work. You don't need all of that. And ideally, revenues should not exceed $1 million. If you have that, you're probably outside of our scope. But it can also be zero. There are no specific requirements regarding your legal form, ownership, age of your entity, but it should be something that is more than just a project. So it should have the potential to be its own entity at some point. We invite specifically the founders and co-founders to apply with us because there's a lot of questions which we believe can only be answered by the people who have the vision. So if you are a fundraiser for another organization, you might not be the right person to fill the questionnaire. And then if you have been an award finalist in a previous year, you can reapply after 2 years. Also important, we will have a pitch day in Switzerland. So you on 21st of October, ideally you are available in person, but also a video call is possible. But at least one person of your team, a founder or executive director, should be available on 21st of October this year. Geographies, we are very open to all countries in the world. Countries at high risk of money laundering are specifically North Korea, Myanmar, and Iran. Then language. Unfortunately, we only accept applications in English. If you apply in any other language, we will not consider your application. If you have bad English, that's not a problem. We will understand what you want to tell us. But if it's in another language, we cannot take it into account. And this thing is free of charge. If anyone charges you to apply here, that's not us. I'm having a quick look at the Q&A and I'm not seeing anything. So I hope the questions from those who had their hand up earlier are already solved. Otherwise, I'll open your mics all at the end. Very quickly about the Wyss Academy for Nature grant. So on top of the 25,000 in the 4 different categories that we have, we also have a 15,000 Swiss francs thematic grant, which is on the topic of nature positive value chains for regenerative local economies. And there we invite all the solutions that think they apply to that. Actually, we don't invite you. If you apply for the Innovate for Nature Award and you qualify for this, you will automatically be evaluated. So we're talking about 3 different categories: regenerative land use or economic livelihood strategies, for example, non-timber forest products, then emerging technologies or business models that reduce pressures on ecosystem and create nature positive economic opportunities, or solutions with local embeddedness and ownership potential for replication within or across regions. And now that's the relevant part. The above categories need to be suitable to one or several of the 5 regions below. So they don't have to be from that area, but they should be applicable or demonstrable in these areas. So we're talking about savanna ecosystems, like you have them in northern Kenya, Amazonian forests, like you have them in Madre de Dios, Peru, humid tropical forests, like northeastern Madagascar, forest frontier landscapes, like in northern Laos and northern Thailand, or Swiss landscapes, like you have it in the canton of Bern. It's quite broad. So if you're active in any of these ecosystems anywhere on the planet, you should be good. what is the procedure? So the Innovate for Nature award journey takes us from mid-May until the end of the year, more or less, only to do the evaluation and the award at first. That is without the acceleration program. So the award journey, we opened the call for application mid-May and are going to close it next week. Then we do about 1 month of first round assessments and notify anyone who applied in the first round whether they got to the second round. The first round is focusing on nature and very few basic business dimensions. I'll get into that a little bit later. Second round will then open on 11th of July and close on 31st of July. That means if you make it into the second round, somewhere within these 3 weeks between July 11th and 31st, you'll have to fill the questionnaire for the second round, which goes much more into business and governance dimensions of your organization. And then by the end of August, we will have evaluated the second round and start preparation with the finalists for the pitch day in mid-October. So we'll have a call with you and we'll do pitch training to make sure that once you get in front of the Innovate for Nature jury, that you will perform in your own interest. And then somewhere later this year, or maybe even January next year, we'll have the Innovate for Nature award ceremony, which is usually one big event where we bring all stakeholders together and announce the winners. So this slide is just, again, a repetition. We have the nature focus, the business focus, and then the jury pitching set with the opening times, closing times, and when can you expect the feedback. By the way, all these slides, these are the guideline slides which you find on our website. If you go to innovatefornature.ch award, and there should be a big button, guidelines, where you can download these slides. Here again, if you haven't found out, if you want to apply, go to innovatefornature.ch, Innovate for Nature Award, and then click here to apply. You will be moved to another website, which is called Babele, where you need to create an account and then see how to go about that. So there are the guidelines and PDF application form to help you prepare to fill the survey. We recommend you prepare it off when you're not on the platform, so that you have the time. Maybe you have to ask a co-founder or another employee in your team to help you with some of the questions. From last year, we saw that this first round application takes between 2 and 4 hours. So it's not nothing, but it's also not forever. And then submit it before the evening of Thursday next week. So if you win, we have a few expectations, but we try to keep them very low. So 1 year after receiving the grant, by the way, the grant is without any conditions. You can use it for whatever you want, but we would like to hear 1 year afterwards what you did with it. Then we will co-develop together very few, maybe 2-3 impact metrics, something like hectares of rainforest you conserved or something like that, where we would like you to report us again after the first year, and then maybe again a bit later, after 3 or maybe 5 years. Then at some point around 2030, where you are hopefully thriving, to have a little bit of a final report, or whenever you think you have used up anything that has to do with us, we'll get into that. And from time to time, we will also request to share more about your work. That includes pictures, videos, quotes. That's essentially to make sure you get the visibility that we promised. So each time we share pictures of you, we hope that our network picks up on it, spread the word about your achievements and so on. That's more or less anything that we require of you afterwards, but there's a lot more opportunities in that. So we talk about the training, of course, that can be training on impact measurement, that can be mentorship on marketing of your business, further developing your business model, really depending on what exactly you need. And we'll find out together. How do we do the evaluation? So before we get into the winning part and what's great about it, we need to talk how you can win. What are the organizations we're looking for? And on this slide, you find the round 1 assessment criteria. So here we have a higher focus on nature, but you also see on the right side, there are a few, let's call it killer criteria on the business side. But let me go into the nature side first. Theory of change essentially means, are you able to articulate how whatever you are doing is good for nature and biodiversity? Because you won't believe it, some of the applicants are not able to do that, and that's kind of a killer. Then extent, condition, change, and significance are the core of the first round application. So here we try to understand if your solution is being scaled, if it goes exactly as you plan it and everything goes well, which areas on the planet are affected by that, in what way are they affected, and are these areas significant? And you might wonder now, if you have a solution that is not place-based, how do we do that? Let's imagine you are a satellite company. You can essentially affect anywhere on the planet, right? But that means for us, we will have to try to understand who are the users of your satellite application and what will they change in their operations by using your satellite application, and how will that in the end reflect on the real world out there? Who will change what based on your activity? And so the questions are designed to help us understand how that could look like. Because you will find a lot of questions which are unconventional, which you might not have seen in another grant application. So these questions help us to understand how you perceive that, and we can then try to see if we agree with your perspective. Maybe we see even more than you see, more potential, and sometimes you also see less than what you see. So that's the extent, condition, change, and significance. By the way, these come from the WWF Biodiversity Impact Assessment tool, which is a bit more complicated. We use a simplified version of that. Last one on the biodiversity and nature criteria is a question on transformation, where we wonder, can your solution transform an entire sector? So does it have the potential to be like a lighthouse, a guiding star for others? Let me use an example from electric vehicles, where Tesla produced cars, electric cars, in a manner that made all the other car manufacturers also look into the topic, and they had to change because they saw they are pushing so hard. If we don't want to get lost, we need to transform as well. So some kind of that role, of course, without the crazy CEO. On the business side, we have problem fit, financial viability, maturity, and team. Problem fit really means we ask you to define the problem that your solution is solving and define how your solution is solving that problem. So it is kind of similar to the theory of change, but it's more seeing the fit between your economic activity and the problem, while the other one is more on the nature element. So that's high level, but I'm sure most of you will pass this with ease. The second one is we try to gawk in the first round, try to see if your organization has the potential to become self-sustaining at scale. So that goes again into the space saying we're not looking for organizations or projects that are purely relying on donations. There needs to be some element in there which allows you to sell a service, sell a product that will help you carry your operations in the long run. If you're fully relying on philanthropy, that's probably not self-sustainable at scale. The third element here on the business side is maturity. After the initial idea and before the growth phase. So if you are already scaling up, you are too late for us, unfortunately. If you only have an idea which fits on an A4 page and have nothing else, then probably you are too early for us. So it needs to be a bit more than the initial idea. Ideally, as I said, a business plan, maybe a pilot, maybe an MVP, something in that space, but not yet scaling. And lastly, team, that's what's classically the most important one. Here we're just trying to see that there are no red flags immediately. If your team is already 45 people, then you're probably too big for us. If you're only one, it might also be questionable whether that counts as a team. So that's round one, which we will have also the support from an AI tool to evaluate that. So from last year, we took all the applications that we received and of course scored by hand. And for this year, we will use a tool evaluate us here again on these criteria that we train with our own data. So you can try to make use of that, but maybe we will also notice it if you use an AI tool to fill your own data in there. And now let's have a look at the second round. In the second round, we have much more of a business focus, or let's say a business and governance focus, where we try to see from an operational perspective, where are you exactly? So we're talking about, do you have already customers? What are your customers? Who are your customers? What are their needs, or what are they willing to pay in the future? Do you have a competitive edge over potential competitors? Are there any competitors? Trying to understand how you want to make money. If you want to make money, you can also apply as a not-for-profit, but money is the tool that will most likely still move your operations. We try to see whether you have a realistic estimation of your own market potential, and also look at governance and social impacts and risks that are associated depending on what exactly your economic activity is. We will also have, again, a little bit of a focus on biodiversity and nature in the second round. So essentially carrying more forward into the from the first round, having few deeper looks in round two as well. So on one hand, we try to see what the negative impact of your solution is, because any solution out there will have a negative impact on nature and biodiversity. The question is your positive impact bigger, or is your negative impact bigger? So we'll ask you questions here to see whether you have an understanding of your own negative or potential negative impact at scale, and if we agree with that. And we'll also try to see how are you doing in terms of adaptation and resilience, thinking of the next 20, 30 years being maybe a bit more chaotic in terms of what climate change will bring for us. Is your solution able to withstand environmental, social, technological changes? We have a tiny element on circularity and regeneration, where we try to understand, are you following any basic practices in that space, if that applies to your solution? And also try to see, depending on whether that applies to your solution, whether there are any inherent links between the business model and the nature impact. Essentially, does $1 coming in result in one nature impact going out or whatever? Are there direct links, or is it more complicated to see the nature impact? So that's first round. Second round, and then for the third round, we have an external jury. And the external jury will do they will receive your pitch decks that we will prepare probably together in the weeks before the pitch day, mid-October, where we will ask you to focus on impact, innovation and adaptability, evidence and design, equitable governance and participation, and purposeful growth. So they're all packed densely with a lot of keywords in there, but essentially it is about showing everything that you have shown us in round 1 and round 2 that can catch someone's attention in a very short time, which is what you will have with the jury. The jury day will be half a day or a full day, and you won't have much more than maybe 3 to 5 minutes to pitch that, to convince the jury with whatever your work is. I show you here the jury that we have for the round 3. It is a mixture between academia, investors, or let's say finance professionals, government, NGOs, and philanthropy. So we have, yeah, I think that's more or less it. Some faces might look familiar to you if you are active in the space. They have all been selected due to their merit in their professional life. Now, already coming to a close on what I want to actively tell you, and then I think I'll open the audio for all of you that we can have a quick discussion, because I see no Q&A so far. Oh, now I see a lot of Q&As. Yeah, I just realized I should have updated this. Right, now I see some Q&A. So let me read into these quickly before I go into the last year's cycle. Esperanza from Brazil. So you ask whether it's only for companies and startups, or does it apply to NGOs that are accelerating nature positive solutions as part of an educational initiative? If I would say if the entire NGO has that purpose, then it could make sense. However, if this is a program that you're running within the NGO and the NGO has other focus that are not accelerating nature positive solutions, then probably not. Esperanza again, we're not fully relying on donations. Okay, how should you bring the information about grant funding and total amount of funding? Okay, I think we should have an individual chat on that, because I'm not fully sure I understand. I'll quickly add my email address here, then you can write me that. Then we have a question regarding extent. We are a startup focusing on mobilizing funding to high impact local conservation initiatives. how would we have to phrase this regarding the geographic scope as our target group and users are on a global scale? Right. I assume it sounds like you already have users. If they are from specific countries or if you see a cluster in a specific area, then feel free to point those out. If you already have users from every country in the world, then I'd say it sounds like you're doing good work and you might not be needing us. Yeah, I would say try to phrase it in a way that where you are most active at the moment. So maybe it is Latin America or the Middle East or certain ecosystems. The extent that I mentioned is not an absolute definition. That's something we will derive from what you are telling us in the application. Then I have another question from Esperanza. You need seed money to get started. I see what you have in mind there. So you have a hub that will train you. In general, I think it sounds good. What you would have to point out to us then is how this is different and more innovative to anything else that is already out there. So I'm not saying your work is not good or anything, but we are specifically looking for those that are more innovative, more that are different, have a different competitive edge than what we can already see out there. Right now, from what I'm reading, I'm not sure I can see that competitive edge in that sense. And another question, could we consider educational initiatives itself as a product to nature positive solution? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Maybe as well here, send me that on an email. How many team members? So a question from Lara, how many team members must be part of the startup as a maximum? Well, I'd say there is not a defined maximum per se, but if you already have, let's say, 20, 50 employees, and I mean people who are paid, then you're probably so big that it doesn't make sense to work with us, because I can hardly imagine a structure where that many employees are active with where our support still makes sense. But if it's team members that are maybe volunteers, then it's a different story. So this is something you might want to clarify in the application. All right, I see no immediate next question popping up. I'll quickly go through last year's cycle and then I see if I can turn on all of your cams and mics to see if there are any more questions. So last year we had applicants from 81 different countries, 400 applications. That also means that if we had 4 winners, you only have a 1% chance of winning. So it's something you keep in mind. I don't want to discourage you, but it also means we had a lot of solutions which are great solutions, which did not win in the end. From a thematic perspective, we see a lot is going on in agriculture, circular economy, conservation, climate resilience. These are the big buckets, but you also see a little bit smaller indigenous peoples and local communities is a big topic, ecosystem services, biodiversity credits, restoration, food, all that. If any of these apply to you, you're in. If you go and have a look at smaller clusters in here, like education, we have 22 applications in that space last year as well. Pollution, soil, all that works. As long as in general, the solution has a nature positive contribution. There's a few pictures from the Innovate for Nature Day last year, which we did in the south of France. We were honored to receive a space in an art center that you see at the picture above. Then we invited about 150 people from all around the world to come to that day and see the solutions, see the winners, exchange, have good talks. Yeah, weave the ecosystem together. Also, a quick look at the winners from last year. So we had different categories last year than this year. We had the Innovate for Nature Awards 4 times, which you see here, 4 winners. And then we had different grants, honorary mentions, trainings, and audience awards. So far, we have only 1 Innovate for Nature grant this year, but it is a bit bigger than what we had last year. And the others we're still in discussion whether they will appear again. That also depends on the funding that we receive. So that can still change, but no guarantees on that. And if you're interested in the winners of last year, you can have a look at those here. As I mentioned, this document is on our website, and you can download this entire guideline. We do have also an FAQ on the website, so if there's anything I haven't answered so far, feel free to check out there or write an email to award@innovatefornature.ch. But if you are already in here in the chat, let me quickly see if I can turn on all your microphones, and then we can have a discussion in here. Also, a big thank you to all of you who joined. If you want to leave now, feel free, or stick around for a few minutes of Q&A. I need a second to see if I can turn you all on, your microphones, and then you'll hear again from me. Okay, I have turned on all mics and cameras. So if you want to ask a question now that I haven't yet answered, feel free to put up your hand and we go quickly through them. Yes, Ozan.
Hi, thank you very much for the very informative presentation. I just wanted to ask, will you be giving feedback to the applicants after the application process has been finalized?
So last year we were a bit overwhelmed with the applications. We were not expecting the 400, so we did not give a systematic feedback. For this year, we have not implemented anything that we can say is automated, but it's something we might still be doing. So I would right now not say for sure I can give you a feedback. It depends really a bit on can we automate it and to what extent. Yeah. So
can I ask one more question?
Yes, but let me quickly add to the first one. So what we did last year with so we took 150 organizations into the second round, and these were the ones where we said we saw the nature positive potential and the innovation, which was about a bit more than 1/3 of all the applicants, and we also posted all of them on our website. So we gave a bit of visibility in that sense. So there was not directly feedback as to why you're good or why you were not good, but it was also not nothing in that sense. Yeah. But please ask another question.
Second question was, you said you will be using AI this term to evaluate the applications.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like, will you be able to ensure that everybody will be able to kind of be assessed? And like, do you think that has the potential for maybe a bit of bias or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very important question. So as I said, we used our notes and our ratings from last year to train the model. So it's a proprietary model, which also doesn't share your data into the wild world out there. So you don't have to worry about that. And we will not use it to rank who is best and who is second best and third best or whatever. What we'll do is to try and identify maybe the top 30% and then have a hands-on look for the top 30%. It's just to make sure that if we get several hundred applications, that we can focus our time on those that we believe through all these criteria which the AI is trained on, that we find the right solutions and spend the time on these. But of course, we'll not completely ignore. We'll have a quick look at all those that are kicked out or that are not sent to a human lens in that sense.
Right, thank you.
Thank you for asking the questions. Any more questions out there? Esperanza, you had a few questions which I was not able to answer right away. Do you might want to ask them now in person to see if I can?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, thank you very much for all the explanations. They were great. I'm just still trying to understand if our NGO can apply to this award or not. As you told us that if our NGO is as a whole is only looking to environmental solutions or not. So probably not, because we are looking also to other, let's say, other parts of the spectrum to solve issues, environmental and social issues. But we understand this as the same direction, but you might not.
No, I understand what you mean. You have the holistic perspective, and especially in education, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes. And as Brazil as a continental has continental proportions, is it's sometimes tricky to understand where we would go. So the product that the solution that we were willing to apply, not to submit to the award itself can be considered a product, as some companies are investing in this solution especially to those communities that are more vulnerable to climate changing. But we are not sure if the grant will look to this initiative as a product itself. As it doesn't make any income. Once the environmental hub is established, it's run by the youth and it's self-sustainable, but it doesn't make any income as a business.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Probably there are other organizations who are more of a fit in that sense to help you kickstart this. I definitely see the value in it, but we have a bit of restriction as we are looking for solutions that help us transform in the long run the economy. And so there needs to be an angle which we can justify and say, okay, that helps transform value chains, that helps transform the smallholder businesses in the area or something like this. If you can demonstrate this, then I guess it's valid. But if not, then maybe not.
Yeah, I guess as the target of our initiative is the youth that are in the late stages of school and the youth who already left school but it's still not working, it's unemployed. Those trainings, those educational trainings are, the focus is to change their mindset and the way they look to the environment and to their biomas where they are established. And those trainings can give them a future direction to their profession, giving them soft skills and helping them to understand how to organize environmental actions. So it's a little bit to give them a role and some protagonism as environmental activists.
Yeah.
And by that, we expect that they change their choices in the future to look to the environment in a different way, and that affect them in their career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely see what you mentioned. It's from an educational perspective and the social dimensions very relevant, and also in the long run for the transition. What I see here as a challenge is how is it innovative compared to other similar programs. As I said, if you can demonstrate it, feel free to submit. But I would, from also what I saw, who made it into the finalists last year, it's maybe not what I would immediately identify as a potential winner.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions out there? No? Well, if there are no more questions, then I thank everyone who attended. It was a pleasure having you. If you have any more questions, please, Ozan, you have another question?
That was an accident, sorry, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for attending, and I wish you a lovely rest of your day.